Sudden unexpected death in epilepsy is responsible for more than 600 deaths in the UK each year, which is more than AIDS and cot death, and yet most people have never heard of Sudep. In fact, sadly, most people hear about it when it's too late.
When he was 22, his best friend found him face down in bed, already dead, and he'd been gone for about 13 hours.
I didn't hear about Sudep until after I lost my husband. It would have been about 2 days afterwards. My husband had epilepsy, he passed away, and I couldn't understand why.
Today I've come to meet Sophie, who lost her son Felix to Sudep in March 2017.
I went up to Leicester to see him at university. He was in a play. I was due to see him in the play. I went to meet him and he wasn't there. And I wondered what was wrong, tried to call him, couldn't get hold of him, and decided to contact the Hall of Residence to go and check in his room because I didn't want to go from where I was meeting him in case he turned up there. And they said they'd call me and they didn't, and so I went there and I got there was an ambulance there, and suddenly I had a paramedic telling me my son was dead.
Do you think that yourself and Felix were given enough information and support to manage his epilepsy?
Not really. The neurology department was understaffed. Trying to see the epilepsy nurse was always seemed to be a real struggle.
Research on Sudep is limited. However, available research suggests that the key to preventing death is seizure control. Now, shockingly, in 2013, Epilepsy Action found that 75% of patients with epilepsy had never been referred to a specialist despite having seizures.
People most at risk of Sudep are those that have frequent convulsive seizures. But I think it's also important to say that this is not really the rule, this is an exception. Even at groups with very high risk, it's probably 1 in 200 that are going to have a problem.
There are some that would say that perhaps health professionals are not taking it as seriously because so many people are unaware of Sudep. What are your comments on that?
Our education often doesn't address Sudep when it should. But I think that anyone dealing with people with epilepsy should know about this. This is potentially the most severe, fatal outcome of epilepsy, so people should know.
With questions being asked about the role of healthcare professionals, in many cases it's being left up to those affected by Sudep to raise awareness and understanding.
For people at risk of Sudep is actually extremely good. Like cot death, we've been able to establish clear risk factors that actually exist in cases where people have tragically died.
Can you tell me more about the investigation process?
When a sudden death happens, there's a duty on the coroner to have an investigation of the death. It's a supremely traumatic process and it is extremely lengthy. Tragically, we do know that sometimes families find themselves part of a crime scene.
Wow.
I mean, it causes huge distress to people.
After some years, I was diagnosed with PTSD from the trauma of losing my sister because we were very close.
Tell me, what steps can politicians take to help raise Sudep awareness?
I think government should put some resources into really monitoring this condition. And I think the NHS can do a lot more to make GPs aware that you can die from epilepsy. I mean, one of the risks that people face, for example, particularly young people, is they make the transition, say, from school, where they're at home, often with their parents supporting them, to university, where suddenly they're on their own and left to their own devices, and they're not quite sure how to manage their condition. One of the things we're pressing for is to have these deaths better recorded by the coroner so that we know the real scale of what I think is an epidemic.
Now, as well as promoting awareness and understanding, providing support to those who have lost a loved one is vital. So we went down to the annual Sudep Awareness Walk to find out how progress and remembrance go hand in hand.
First of all, you can feel guilt that you should have known and you didn't, and that if you'd known, you may have been able to do something.
It's a silent killer. People don't talk about it. It sneaks up and takes our loved ones, and we've not been told about all the risks.
I think what we carry is the frustration of our community.
Yeah.
And, we're very close as an organisation. conversation.
Oh, Jane.
You know, it is. It's a Grenfell Towers. It's a Hillsborough. But because these deaths happen in people's homes, and they don't all happen in one place at the same time, it's just something that doesn't get attention.